Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving headfirst into James Karuga's brilliant play, Dreams Denied. It's a super sharp, pretty hilarious, and honestly, kind of heartbreaking piece of political satire. We're going to look at the fictional Karara County to see exactly how leadership can just completely detach from reality. It's like a masterclass in the anatomy of bad governance, and we're pulling right from the script to break it all down. Now, to set the stage, just listen to this absolutely wild quote from Governor Adonis Mwitu. Anyone who eats infected meat will develop a strong natural immunity. You will die a hero and be celebrated with a statue. I mean, wow, right? He is literally trying to convince his advisors that letting people eat diseased, uninspected meat is a genius public health move. It's laugh out loud funny, but it also hooks us right into the terrifying mindset of a guy who thinks he can do no wrong.
So, let's get into our first section, the anatomy of a crisis.
Karuga does this amazing job of showing us that terrible governance doesn't just happen, it cascades from the top down. And you see it immediately in Governor Mwitu's office. The script literally describes walls plastered with his own face, campaign posters, swearing-in photos, you name it. Plus, there's this massive framed picture behind his desk that reads, Governor Mwitu the Great. The guy's completely trapped in an echo chamber of his own ego, totally disconnected from what's actually happening out in his county.
Moving on to Section 2, the absurdity of power.
Now, Governor Mwitu is dealing with a major unpopularity crisis. People don't like him. So what's his grand plan to win them back? Well, he rolls out some truly mind-boggling policies. Get this, he wants to issue official ID cards for cows, but only when they reach adulthood, which he figures is about 18 years in human time. And as we already heard, he wants to ban meat inspections to build natural immunity against anthrax. Oh, and he also flat out refuses to pave the county's horribly muddy roads. The mental gymnastics here are just astounding. His technocrats, Mwanga and Ogola, are practically begging him to enact normal policies. You know, like paving those muddy roads so farmers can safely get their crops to market without crashing. But Mwitu? He insists on keeping them muddy so the county can train Olympic-level mud skaters. Yeah, mud skaters. He seriously thinks he's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers, envisioning Karara County dominating international winter sports in the mud. Obviously, his rational advisors try to shut this down. Ogola straight up tells the governor that his ideas are dystopian and are just going to cause a lot of suffering. And the governors come back, "Did you just call me Ethiopian? I am not Ethiopian. Stop insulting me with unnecessary big words." You really can't make this stuff up. The script proves this incredible mix-up is the actual breaking point. The governor's ego is so incredibly fragile that he loses his mind over a word he doesn't even understand, just because they dared to speak the truth. Ogola and Mwanga are fired on the spot and even threatened with fraud charges. Which brings us to Section 3, firing the truth tellers. This is exactly how the architecture of sycophancy gets built. The contrast between the old and new staff is just staggering. The fired advisors, Mwanga and Ogola, were rational people trying to rely on actual economics and standard public health practices. But their replacement? The new chief policy advisor is Dr. Ananias Kimbu. This guy is a total yes man who literally goes on the radio and claims he can diagnose public health needs, like a massive deworming crisis, just by analyzing a radio host's facial wrinkles. And if you're wondering where Dr. Kimbu got his impressive credentials, well, his doctorate is from the University of Eastern Soviet, an institution that, conveniently, he admits was bombed to ashes back in the 1990s, taking all his official certificates with it. It's a hilarious, yet kind of scary look at how corrupt leaders will fast-track totally unqualified sycophants, as long as those people are willing to passionately defend the leader's absolute worst ideas. And man, those bad ideas come with a massive price tag, 70 million shillings. That's a budget the governor sets aside to buy notebooks and pens for unemployed youth. Is it to create jobs, build schools? Nope. It's literally just because the governor had a weird dream where an investor sneered at a casually dressed young man. So boom, 70 million spent purely so unemployed kids will look sharp for imaginary investors. Let's hit Section 4, Trickle-down extortion. When we leave the ridiculousness of the governor's office and look at the grassroots level, we see the actual human suffering this causes. 10,000 shillings. That is the exact amount that corrupt county officials try to squeeze out of Sharo, who's just a hardworking, everyday farmer. See, the county announced this massive 200 million shilling deworming program, but, shocker, the money mysteriously vanished.
So the burden falls on the poorest citizens to make up for what the corrupt elite stole. The hypocrisy here is just infuriating. These county officials roll up to a peasant farmer's land in luxury cars. They won't even shake Charo's hand because he's got dirt on him from actually working his land. The government hasn't given him any seeds, no fertilizer, absolutely nothing. Yet they shamelessly demand 10% of his seasonal income and even hold out a literal piggy bank tin for him to drop his hard-earned cash into.
But Charo isn't falling for it. He completely shuts down these corrupt officials by pointing to a plant growing right on his fence, Artemisia absinthium. His family uses it to deworm themselves, totally for free, and it actually works. He basically tells the officials to pack it up and bring baskets next time, instead of showing up to extort his money just to fund their own ineptitude.
That leads us into Section 5, reaping what you sow.
Karuga's play doesn't just point fingers at the bad politicians, though. It holds a really tough mirror up to the society that puts them in power. After the officials leave, Charo has this incredibly painful realization. He says, "It's our fault. We should have not voted for him. We voted emotionally rather than rationally. Governor Mwitu also gave us money during the campaigns, and we foolishly believed he cared for us." That is the bitter pill of this whole story. The citizens themselves have to own the fact that they accepted bribes, ignored massive red flags, and elected a megalomaniac who just builds useless white elephant projects.
So it leaves us with a pretty heavy question to think about. When we accept short-term bribes, maybe a little campaign cash or some shiny emotional promise during an election, are we really prepared to pay the long-term price of a stolen future? Dreams Denied might make us laugh out loud, but it leaves us with an absolutely crucial civic warning about the real-world cost of bad choices at the ballot box. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember to keep asking the hard questions.